After seeing the installation at the Void at Disney Springs, I have an idea, and I apologize for this unsolicited advice. And of course, you know I'm biased because I really want virtual reality to protect tigers in the wild. But I think that this might appeal to a certain percentage of people who, one, like me, wouldn't ordinarily be looking for any kind of an experience to play part of a movie scene or to be involved in a cartoon about the internet. I think those have very distinct audiences. And I think because people are so different, that maybe something that you could offer would be a experience that would appeal to people who are looking to be educated about a certain topic and who want to actually make a difference by participating in that topic. And so if you'll allow me, I have kind of this scene rushing through my head that I'd like to get out on video while I'm thinking about it. There's several ways that you could have people really make a difference, which is what all of us want. We want to make a difference with our lives. And so one of the things we do here at the sanctuary is, even though we're very small and our finances are very small, we set aside over $100,000 every year to donate to in situ projects in the wild. So those are conservation projects in the wild that are protecting mostly small cats. The big cats get all the money, so we try to make our donations to things like ocelots and leopard cats and fishing cats and those smaller cats who don't get a lot of funding. And so if you were to say that a portion of your fee that you're paying to do this experience is actually going to go to conservation in the wild, then I think people would have another justification for doing something they really want to do. It's like, well, and it's helping save cats in the wild, so why wouldn't I want to do that? The biggest reason for extinction of tigers and other big cats in the wild comes from something that most people don't understand, and that is cub handling. And the reason that cub handling has such a huge impact on killing of lions and tigers and other big cats in the wild is because people see these people on TV that are touching big cats and posing with big cats and cuddling with cubs and bottle feeding cubs, and they look at that and they think, I want to do that too. And so they get involved in these pay-to-play schemes. And these pay-to-play schemes only work with very small cats, because once they get to be big enough to kill you, they're big enough to kill you. And so all of a sudden they lose their value, except as parts. And I don't think most people know that. And so I'm picturing a way of conveying this very difficult to understand concept in a sequence of events that would give somebody the feeling like they have just been on this whirlwind experience where they've impacted all of these types of situations. And I understand the need for all of your characters, because you're interacting with other people, to look alike. So like you have the headset on and you look like the stormtrooper, which is a very easy thing because people are putting on this stormtrooper looking kind of mask anyway. But if the thing that they were dressing up in was the headset, but they were dressed up in ghillie suits, which are those, like, it looks like you're a big bush wandering around out in the woods, you could start the thing saying, okay, you know, you're going to put on your ghillie suit and you're going to go to India and you're going to see tigers in the wild. And so everybody gets in their Jeep and they get out and they don't see any tigers in the wild. And so what they do see are these beautiful scenes that you see at Ranthambore in India and other places where they have like these old ruins of these beautiful Hindu type structures that are now like kind of decayed and falling apart into the forests. And so they go, their guide on the Jeep takes them and says, well, there's no cats left in the wild because of the fact that they're being poached to extinction, and I want you to be able to save the tiger from going extinct in your lifetime. And so we have this teleporting capacity inside one of these ancient ruins, and I trust you to try and go and help these animals so that we can save them. And so you go in here and you get teleported to a fairground or a mall in America where people are paying to pet cubs. And that, believe it or not, is the primary reason for the extinction of the tiger in the wild, because when people see other people touching cubs and playing with cubs, they want to do it too. And so they'll go to the mall or they go to the fair, they pay their $20 to handle the cubs, and then those cubs end up either being killed or they end up going into the trade for their parts. And that trade in their parts then creates a stimulated demand. And people who want tiger bones and tiger bone wine and tiger parts, or this applies to all animals, but I'm going to focus on tigers for the moment, they always want the wild premium product, not the cage raised product. And so that's why it increases extinction in the wild, because as you increase the demand for these parts, you increase the poaching for these parts in the wild. So they go into them all, and their mission can be that there's all of these cubs that are being loaded into the back of a semi-trailer, and this is true, this really happens here in America. They're getting loaded into the semi-trailer and they're going off to be abused this way, and so that your heroes, your people that are dressed in the ghillie suits, can grab the crates, which is a physical thing they can pick up and carry from one place to another, so it has that tactile experience of being able to do that. And so they rescue all of these cubs, and they talk to some government agency, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service or the United States Department of Agriculture, and they learn that this sort of thing is happening all over the place, and that there are these tiger mills here in the U.S., which there are. There's only a handful of them, but we haven't been able to get them shut down. And they are patterned after the ones that are in China and in South Africa. So you could do a similar type thing here where they're rescuing the crates and that sort of thing, so that you're having all of this interaction. But in the process of doing this, they are told how this is impacting extinction. So you've got the hero guide who is guiding the hero by giving them the information that it's this cub handling that's leading to the extinction, and this is why this is happening. And so the heroes, the people wearing the ghillie suits, then teleport again, and they could teleport to China, and they could see these horrific tiger mills in China, which are very similar to the ones here. You have a cub petting display, which is the way they use the cubs up front, and they make money off of the cubs while they're little. And then once they get to be adults, in China anyway, and in Laos and Thailand and other places that are now doing it because it's so lucrative in China, what they do is they actually just put them in cages once they are adults and allow them to starve to death, because a lot of the religious beliefs there are that you can't euthanize or kill an animal, weirdly, but you can let it die of natural causes, which is starvation. And since all they want are the bones anyway, that works for them. And so maybe the mission of the people in the ghillie suits now is to get food to those animals that are starving. And those are different things that I'm sure you could impact, as far as like how they grab things off of the wall or make sure that they get to the animals. I really hesitate with the next idea for that, because I don't want to encourage the idea of people going around and setting wild animals free, because these animals that are born in captivity can't go free in most cases. And especially here in the US, they're not native here. So I don't want to encourage people to just go around cutting holes in cages and releasing dangerous wild animals into the environment. But you might be able to do sort of a structured release from these Chinese tiger farms, where the purpose of the hero is to feed these animals and then get them into the teleporting system, herd them in there, I don't know how. But anyway, they go into the teleporting system that then teleports them back out to natural places where they exist in the wild. So I don't know if I'd want to go down that path, but it's another interaction type thing that could be done. So from there, they teleport to South Africa. And in South Africa, you've got the same thing. People will come to pay to pet cubs. The big thing there that they attract are people who are coming for part of their vacations. They'll pay $3,000 to vacation there and save orphaned lion cubs, which is just nonsense. It's just lion breeding mills. And it's because the tiger bones are endangered from endangered species, tigers, and lions are not classified as endangered yet. They should be, but they're not. And so people can't tell the bones of a lion from the bones of a tiger. And so it's a way of skirting the laws that protect tigers that they're doing all of this with lions. And so with the lions, the heroes can then go in and do the same thing. They can grab crates full of cubs and they can save them. They can, especially in South Africa, where poaching is known to be such a problem, those cubs that are bred on those lion cub breeding mills are raised and exploited for the money that they can make off of them while they're cute little handleable cubs. And then they'll often do like a walking with the juveniles, you know, as they start to get bigger, but they're still mentally cubs. And then they're put in cages for rich doctors and dentists to come shoot in a cage and take home their trophy. So I think you can have the guide talking about the trophy hunting industry and how that's causing the extinction of these cats, and how these cubs that people think they're rescuing and saving from being orphans are actually being raised up for the purpose of being shot and killed in these types of situations. And then you have all of these people who are poaching lions, because again, it's going to be cheaper to poach a lion than it is going to be to raise a lion. So all over the place, you've got the people who live in those areas poaching the lions, trying to feed that trade for their bones and for their teeth and their claws and their body parts. And so that would be a shooter type thing. I think people would feel just fine about shooting poachers. People really hate poachers. So you could do the whole shooting poachers kind of thing. You might even be able to do some kind of an interactive thing where cats are released from snares, you know, some way that they can physically feel something that they're releasing a cat might give them that great experience of sending that wild cat who lives in the wild back to the wild. And so I think those are ways that you could play into that sort of an experience. And then the ultimate goal for me is that people get the idea that these animals don't belong in cages. So much of the abuse that we see is because of the fact that we have normalized the idea of keeping these majestic wild animals in prison and using them for our own purpose. So the ultimate goal for me in the big picture of all of this is that people so desire these interactive type experiences with cats, not necessarily the gameplay, but the actual visuals of these cats in the wild doing what they do, that replaces the need for having them in captivity for people to gawk at. And so the last part of the hero's journey is that they understand that, they get that message from their guides throughout this, and they decide that they're going to go to the Himalayas. So they teleport to the Himalayas where the beautiful snow leopards and palace cats and fabulous little cats are. But there you hardly ever see a cat. People have said they've been there for 10 years studying snow leopards and never saw a snow leopard. So they're teleported into this snowy high mountain range type of a thing, and you have to find the snow leopard, and your mission as the hero is to have this camera, and you're going to capture photos and videos of that cat, and you're going to bring that back to the world so that people can experience these cats living free. And so that's the hero's ultimate end of this gameplay, is that they are capturing these images. So when they do actually spot a cat, and that's easy enough to do because you would only have a couple of these cats that people would spot, when they spot it, point their camera and shoot their camera or click it or whatever, they capture this image and it pops up, because people love digital film and they love to see the immediate response of what they captured. You know, they can zoom in and they're like, oh wow, this is this beautiful photo that you've got. And so now you're going to bring that back, and the end of the journey is that they now see these huge audiences of people who are enjoying these fabulous images that they brought back of the Himalayas, of these snow leopards and palace cats and other cats that people would never get to see in a natural environment. And those people are just so excited about being able to see that. And you get the final part of the message, which is, you know, you did all of this wonderful stuff. You learned all this great stuff about these animals. Now make sure that you go out and tell everybody, which makes more people come to pay to see your thing. And some portion of that goes to conservation in the wild. And I would just encourage you to actually pick really good conservation projects. We do a lot to vet the people that we give money to make sure that they're not adding to the problem by doing stupid things like posing with cats. And there's like the Cheetah Conservation Fund. They get a ton of money because it's cheetahs, and yet they are posing with cheetahs all the time, which makes people want to go get cheetahs as pets, which is causing a huge problem with the Saudis who have the money to pay for those cheetahs, taking all the cubs out of the wild to make them pets because they saw somebody who was doing conservation work petting the cubs. So we don't fund anything where they're sending those kinds of mixed messages. And I would hope that you would look into those as well and make sure that whatever you decide to fund, you're going to do, that you're going to pick people that are doing things the right way and in ways that are really saving the animals and not making the situation worse. So thank you so much for what turned out to be a lot more of your time than I had anticipated taking. But I feel so passionate about the ability of this to work. I just don't have the knowledge or the resources to make that happen. So I'm hoping that some element of this sparks an idea in your head, and all of your creative people do way more with it than I ever could have thought of. Thank you so much for everything that you're doing in that arena. Bye-bye.